Well, in honor of the Nashville Predators' 25th anniversary, we are ranking the top 25 Nashville Predators players ever. Today, we are at numbers 15 through 11, and they include two players who will probably be the most discussed in this list. We'll talk about it today on Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making the Locked On Predators podcast your first listen of the day. Every single day, we are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, available to you wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And as always, want to start out with a special hello to our loyal Locked On Pred heads out there, the everydayers who tune into every single show. We love you guys. We appreciate the support you give us week after week. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at InsideThePreds.com.
So we have been counting down the top 25 Nashville Predators players of all time.
Yeah.
We have done two of these so far.
Mm-hmm.
I can't count. I was thinking, I just saw the list today. This is the third one.
There you go.
We've done an episode on 25 through 21. We have done 20 through 16. So go back and listen to what we've had. If we're available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. So go back and listen to that list so you can see who we've talked about so far. And I feel like the list so far has just been kind of like a fun, walk down memory lane, reminiscing about some older players, maybe some new-ish players who, maybe we get to put their games under the microscope a little bit more. It feels like now we're getting higher into this list where people might have stronger feelings about maybe individuals ranked higher than one, that might be further up on the list.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're getting into the meat of it now. And I do think that people are going to disagree. There's one today that I think people are going to be like, say what, but just hear us out. Hear us out on it. That's all I ask. Hear us out on this. But yeah, I think now it gets into that tricky part where you really have to spend some time analyzing statistics and culture and, history and records and all of that to really sort through where some of these players rank. Today's list, I think we're getting into that. We're getting into the hostile territory, my friend.
Yeah. So here's the thing. We will preface this by saying we rank these on three categories. We rank them on impact, how they were off the ice, how the team did, all that good stuff. Longevity, how long have they been playing for the Nashville Predators? How long have they been in a high impact role? And legacy. What's kind of our opinions on them now, looking back? Are they more appreciated, maybe less appreciated? Those are the three ways we rank them. And I want to especially highlight number 2, the longevity part, when we get to number 15, because, Ann, I told you, I feel like there's this particular portion of the list contains two people I think most people might have comments on about where they're ranked in this list.
Right.
Number 15, UC Saros.
We know people. We know.
we know a lot of people would have him top 10 already.
Right. But hear us out. This is where he is ranked for now in his career. Longevity will matter. Impact on the ice is still forthcoming. So this list is a living, breathing, fluid thing. So everybody just breathe through when we tell you UC Saros is 15 on our list.
Yeah. UC Saros has another season like he did next year. We do this list again next year. He's top 10.
Oh, yeah.
No question about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, because we've talked about UC Saros' game all summer, Ann.
Yeah.
We know what he is right now.
Mm-hmm.
We know that he is in the kind of prime in his career. It's funny because a lot of people have shown like stats of like Pekka Rinne's first couple of years as a starter compared to UC Saros' first couple of years as a starter. And statistically, UC Saros has been better than Pekka Rinne's start in a lot of different things. I think like the big thing for me, Ann, is it just hasn't had the rest of the team around him yet. Now, in a way, that makes what UC Saros has done more impressive because you can argue in the past 3 years, he has been the team's MVP by far. Yes. I would, and remember there was that big argument like in 2022 when, Roman Josi had 96 points and we were like, who's the MVP? Like, is it Roman Josi? Is it UC Saros? Then UC Saros got injured and everybody at once is like, oh, okay, wait. Okay. No, he's the more important guy machine here. But yeah, I mean, it feels like, and we talk about his, kind of perception around the NHL too. It just feels like if it ever gets to a place where he kind of gets that national recognition, it feels like when the opinion on UC Saros will just flip, not just in Nashville, but around the NHL as well.
Right. I do think people in Nashville, I think fans understand what they have in UC Saros. I think that next season is going to be so interesting, especially when you're looking at, what is UC Saros' legacy going to be with the Nashville Predators for however long he's here? Because all of a sudden, Saros is now walking into a new chapter with the franchise. He took over in 2020, and they were still in that we just need to add a few pieces mode. We've got what we need core wise. We just need a couple of pieces. Whether that was true or not, that's a whole nother podcast. But this is definitely a benchmark in the franchise history where this is going to be a team that is focused on developing youth. This is a team in a reset. And I think what UC Saros does next season with a team that is in every way, really taking a step back to get better eventually, I think that is going to say a lot about his legacy. And I think he is going to be the ticket to this reset. If you take UC Saros out of what is happening next season with the Nashville Predators, you're looking at least 2, 3, 4 more seasons before this team can get back to where they can be with Saros. Yeah. My question for you, Nick, is if UC Saros in his career gets the Nashville Predators to a Stanley Cup final, does he surpass Pekka Rinne?
But here's the thing, like Pekka Rinne was sort of the kind of the standard bearer for so many eras. Like just, he came in during that, that late 2000s era with, Jason Arnott, kind of steadied that ship. He was like the game stealing goalie in sort of, the 2012 playoffs and the reason the Predators were so good. A big reason why they won their first couple playoff seasons. Pekka Rinne, I feel like always is going to be the standard just because of, he did it first and he did it across like multiple teams, multiple eras. So it's going to be hard to beat him. If UC Saros is here for like 10 more years and, gets the Preds through this rebuild and gets the Preds to a Stanley Cup, maybe. Yeah. But it's just so hard to beat like the OG.
It is. It is. But I really wonder about that because the things that you're talking about that Pekka Rinne did, I can see UC Saros doing. He is going to be the guy that carries them through this reset. And he would be the guy that would steal some playoff wins for this team. So it really makes you wonder, could UC Saros battle Pekka Rinne for, best goaltender? I don't know. I agree. There is an element of the OG. There is an OG element. I get that. But the potential, I think, is there.
If he's still on the team in 2 years.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, maybe we're talking about Yaroslav Askarov being the guy. All right, well, we will have spots 14 through 11 on our list coming up here momentarily, including one guy I think fans might have some qualms about being on this list. But first, want to mention today's episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens and their product AG1. Folks, let's face it, we all want to be healthy, but getting there is easier said than done. It's expensive. There's all those vitamins and minerals and whatever you need to buy, protein powders. It gets expensive, it gets complicated, and it causes you to give up. That's why I love AG1, because all it is one scoop in a glass of water each day. That's it. Just one scoop gives you 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, and adaptogens to help you start your day off right. It is a micro habit that delivers macro benefits and helps just about everyone take care of their health every day. Plus, the cost is less than $3 a day, which is, cheaper than that daily cold brew habit you have. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your new supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/NHL network. Again, drinkag1/NHL network to check it out. All right, and we are continuing our list of the top 25 Nashville Predators players of all time. On to number 14, Mr. Nashville Predator himself.
There you go.
David Legwand.
That's right. So he was the first pick in Nashville Predators history. This is the guy that you think of when you think of the Nashville Predators in a lot of ways.
Team legend.
Team legend. 15 years with the franchise, y'all. 956 games played. He still holds the record for the most games played in the franchise. So we'll see how that stands. But listen to, these are the other records that he holds with the Nashville Predators. He is second in points, only by Roman Josi, who just recently surpassed him. Second to Philip Forsberg in goals. Second to Roman Josi in assists. Third in shorthanded goals. Second to Philip Forsberg in game-winning goals. And first in overtime goals. And little bit of trivia, first NHL player to score a penalty shot in overtime, which I thought was just kind of a fun little stat.
Game-winning penalty shot in overtime.
Game-winning penalty shot. That's right. And also a little bit of trivia, which I think is fun. He is co-owner of the Sarnia Sting, where Nashville prospect Nolan Burke played.
And he once tried to get into the wrong penalty box during an NHL game.
Look, I don't judge that. We all have those moments.
Yeah, if anybody remembers, I think that was his first game back in Nashville after being traded.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. The thing about David Legwand is, he's obviously beloved for being like the first draft pick. He, held those team records for many, many, many years, until this sort of new crop of players came in. So, his name was on the record books kind of by default for all those years, played almost 1,000 games. Yeah. It just kind of feels like, the one thing about David Legwand that everybody, sort of talks about is, boy, he never really became that quality of like the number 2 overall pick, and I think that's like the one reason why he's not like, on the team's, Mount Rushmore. Like if you're going to pick a Mount Rushmore of players, that's like the only reason he's not on it is just because, never really had that one big year. His career high came in 2007 when he had 63 points. And it's just, that was the year he played with Paul Kariya, 27 goals that year. But other than that, just 20 goals in a season once in his entire career. And I kind of feel like, as a number 2 overall pick, a guy that you draft to kind of become the face of your franchise, boy, it just always seemed like we wanted more from David Legwand. Even even early on, it just seemed like he was always like the compliment, never like the main guy.
Yeah. Yeah. He was never the main course.
Yeah. But still, and I think just the longevity
For
that he
sure.
played with, and the fact that he was, such a, a big member of this team for so many years. We'll throw out there, very underrated two-way player. I think that's something a lot of people forget about David Legwand because, he had some whoopsie-daisy plays, like high-profile plays, like throwing the puck at his own net during a playoff game that led to a goal. But, I do think that takes away his, very responsible kind of two-way player, very good penalty killer. So I feel like, there's that aspect of his game that we should celebrate too. But yeah, it's just kind of always felt like, we expected a little bit more from David Legwand in his career here.
Yeah. Let's move to a defenseman at number 13. And this is somebody that I know people, Nashville Predators fans know and love. That is the great beard that is attached to Ryan Ellis. Greatest beard,
rocket ship, baby.
Greatest beard, I would say, in the Nashville Predators history, hands down.
Oh, yeah. Over Matthias. Yeah. I was about to say over Matthias Ekholm, but yeah, I'm with you there.
Two very different styles.
Yeah. What's your kind of memory about Ryan Ellis, and why do we have him ranked here, Ann?
Well, Ryan Ellis, I think, was one of those Nashville Predators that was chronically underappreciated across the league. And you look back at his time with Roman Josi, and you see this is a defensive pairing that was fantastic. One of the best in Nashville Predators history, one of the best in the NHL. Yeah. And Ryan Ellis was the guy that flew sort of under the radar because Roman Josi was so high impact, such an offensive weapon. But man, Ryan Ellis's game, and I think Nashville Predators fans really saw it when Ellis was traded. This is a guy who was a difference maker. I mean, just quality defenseman. He had 16 game-winning goals, which I'm like, yeah, you did. He was 11th overall draft pick in 2009, 562 games with the Predators, 10 years. Of course, we know that he was traded to Philadelphia, where he only played 4 more games, and injury just really the word is that he will not return to playing in the NHL, which is awful. But man, did Nashville get so much out of Ryan Ellis.
Yeah. You kind of mentioned him being overlooked a lot, and just based on who he sort of played with in his career, like he was, Yossi's partner. And before that, he was like a top 4, but on the second line or second pairing under Shea Weber. But this is a guy that I think is just such a perfect complement for some of the other players. It's just because he's so responsible. And again, like the year the Predators made the Stanley Cup Finals, 2017, 16 goals from him that year. This guy had a shot.
Yes.
Like he had one of the best shots on the Nashville Predators in his peak.
Yeah.
And I think that's, very underrated part of his game, got 10 plus goals a couple different times. And, it's such a shame because injuries completely slowed him down. Of course, missed a lot of 2018 with an injury. And of course was never quite same after the Corey Perry,
unforgivable.
The headshot, just kind of seemed to be in and out of the lineup after that. But, I feel like there is a lot that you could say about his game and his place.
Yeah. Quality guy on and off.
Absolutely. And as we mentioned, sounds like he, unfortunately might not make it back to the NHL, but what a, career for him. And, I also want to add in just a great guy.
Yes.
Like a great overall guy. We got some good stories about him for sure. All right. And continuing our list of the top 25 greatest Nashville Predators players of all time, let's just throw the Molotov cocktail in here. At number 12, Ryan Suter. Let's go, baby. Let's just start the riots now, shall we?
Let's begin the fun. So drafted in that big 2003 defenseman heavy draft, same draft class, of course, as Shea Weber. Spent 7 years in Nashville, 542 games played, 38 goals, 238 points, a +43, great defensive guy. 18th. I thought this was interesting. He is 18th in all-time games played by a defenseman in the entire history of the NHL. So I thought that was really interesting. Here is what's real about Ryan Suter, my friends. He is the days of our lives of the Nashville Predators. He is the drama mama. He is the story that you will tell your children's children about the time that Ryan Suter stuck it to the Nashville Predators. And it's so funny because on ice contributions, incredible. But will the Nashville Predators fan base remember him for anything other than moving on and the way that it went down?
I asked that. Like, I asked that on Twitter one time when I was, running social media for one of the places I write for. I was like, are we ever going to forgive like Ryan Suter and maybe just appreciate his career a little bit? And boy, the responses I got from that were textbook toxic social media on that.
I think that was probably a hard pass.
Yeah, that was very much a no. Yeah. But here's the thing, Anne. Like, that's of course the legacy of Ryan Suter. Right. Like, that's how everybody remembers Ryan Suter. What we don't always remember is, my God, he was really, really good.
Yeah.
Really good. Still 9th all time in Nashville Predators history in assists. Yeah. Top 10 assists all time on the team, which that says something about the team. You look at the if you take out his first year where he was kind of just, a depth guy, the following 6 seasons he played in Nashville averaged 24, just under 24 minutes a game. He was a minute muncher. Yeah. And it's funny because, we always talk about him with Shea Weber, who is going to be much, much higher than Ryan Suter on this list.
Yeah.
But it's funny because, Shea Weber, was kind of that stay-at-home defenseman, the big shot, the score. It's funny because Ryan Suter, to me, was more of like the free flow, like the free-flowing guy, like more of the puck carrier, more of the guy that would make like the responsible play, like take care of like the responsibility. Like, he was more of like, kind of the responsible two-way defenseman. And that led Shea Weber to kind of be more Shea Weber. Yeah. Like, kind of let Shea Weber be like more aggressive and, clearing out the front of the net. Let him be more of like the big hit guy. Let him jump into the play, take that big slap shot, take some chances in offense. And it's funny because those two complemented each other so well. And, as much as we talk about, Shea Weber kind of becoming one of the best defensemen in the NHL, sort of from the span of, the late 2000s to early 2010s, Shea Weber arguably one of the 3 best defenders. Ryan Suter was such a big part of that.
Yes. Yeah. It's like that Ryan Ellis, Roman Josi thing, where, you talk about who is the standout player, but who is the partner that allows that to happen. And that, that definitely was Ryan Suter. I think it's a little bit sad because I do think that so much about how Predators fans feel about him continues to be negative because of some of the things that have come out. Jason Arnott was on a podcast and was very frank, my friends, about just off ice Ryan Suter, and, kind of was complaining. And apparently when he was bought out in Minnesota, he hung up on the general manager, like, just that there is kind of a vibe. And so I feel like it's a little bit hard with those things kind of coming out even now for Nashville Predators to come to a point where they can say, you know what, this guy was a really great defenseman. Like, it was a bad breakup, y'all. It was a bad breakup.
Yeah, for sure. And that, I'm sure, that certainly has dropped the legacy.
Yeah.
The legacy score for Ryan Suter is not very high.
Yeah. I mean, there's a legacy. Now. It's just not one that gets you up the list.
No, but in terms of, longevity and impact, like, he made the Nashville Predators very, very good for a very long time. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Like, and maybe, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's like almost like a Sergei Fedorov situation in Detroit where, the way he left and some of his, like, contract contract issues there that, soured some fans on him for, quite some time, and his name was a little bit taboo. And then, 20 years, once things cooled down, maybe Predators fans can forgive him.
I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see. There's big feels, y'all. Big feels.
Sure. Let's move on. The last one for today, and number 11 on this list. God, one of the best favorite players, bang for your buck players in team history.
Yep.
Little Stevie Sullivan, number 26. Your tenure with the Nashville Predators is going to be good. And when your first game, very first game, after being acquired at the trade deadline, your star acquisition gets a hat trick in his very first game.
I mean, can you imagine, what a great way to just kick it off with the Nashville Predators. And I think that endeared him to people. I think so much about Steve Sullivan endeared him to this fan base. He kind of was that speedy, scrappy, kind of undersized guy that just got it done. It reminds me a little bit of that Rocco Grimaldi vibe where, people.
But much better.
But much better.
Yeah.
But it's the vibe. It's the same vibe. Played 6 seasons with the Predators, 317 games, and little bit of trivia. He was the first NHL award winner for the franchise. He won the Bill Masterson Memorial Trophy after dealing with horrific injuries and finally coming back. So Steve Sullivan, definitely, I would say always going to be a fan favorite.
Yeah. If you count the Masterton as a major award, sure.
Well, hey, it's an award, friend.
It is an award.
It's an award.
And here's the funny thing about Steve Sullivan is, look at the all-time points per game for Nashville Predators history. Paul Kariya, who we talked about, just under a point per game, most all-time. Number 2 is Steve Sullivan, tied with Philip Forsberg. So in terms of scoring, nobody has done more consistently than Steve Sullivan.
Yeah.
And I think that's something to go. And he was just so good. And this is one of those players, Anne, that it just, oh boy, I would love to see him fully non-injured.
Yes, because he really struggled with injuries.
Here's the thing. We talked about that hat trick for him, in his first game. His first half season with the Nashville Predators after he came over at the deadline, 30 points in 24 games, Anne.
Can you imagine
that? Yeah, that is one hell of an acquisition.
Yeah.
And that was Steve Sullivan. And when he was on the ice, man, he was just lights out. 68 points in 69 games in 2006, 60 points in 57 games the next year. And then he had that, the back injury that just cost him a year and a half of playing time. And then even that, he came back 32 points in 41 games. And it's just, boy, he just bang for your buck whenever he was out there. So electric. In him out there with Paul Kariya at the same time, it was just, God, he was such a fun player.
Yeah. Yep. And I think Nashville Predators fans, this is one, stats aside, this is one that they are always going to really appreciate just for that style of play, just the way that he played, the heart that he played with. The success obviously came, but just he won this fan base over.
Yeah, absolutely. And for that matter, especially for old school fans, he is always mentioned for one of the favorite Nashville Predators of all time. And again, easily a top 10 player. He had just managed to stay healthy.
I know.
Just managed to stay healthy. But the way he fought back really endures, I think, him to the Nashville Predators fan base.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what can you say about him? Just a great all-around player, Anne.
Yeah. And we're all of a sudden at our top 10.
We are.
We
got some good names on here. So at this point, you probably know who's in the top 10. but I feel like you guys are going to have some strong feelings about who is ranked where. So that is something to tune in for. We will have one episode with numbers 10 through 6 coming up, and then we will have 5 through 1. Yeah, you're going to want to stay tuned for this. And where can people find your work?
You can find my work online at InsideThePreds.com. You can find me on Twitter, X, whatever, at @AnnK_Mama on Ice.
Yeah, it's the Bird app.
The Bird app.
We can call it. You can find me on said Bird app or X app. God, it doesn't even have the Bird logo anymore.
I know.
We're falling apart here. At _NS Morgan, or read my work at penaltyboxradio.com. That's going to do it for us on today's Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We will be back later this week with all new episodes. We'll see you then.